Hello, this is Pat Lynch, and you are once again listening to the Career Pathways podcast. We have an extra special guest for an extra special episode, live from California, and we're bringing you Abigail Smithson from the California State University at Humboldt, and I know I completely messed it up, but I'm sure you'll correct me.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Should I correct you now, or do you want me to wait?
Oh, correct me now. Yeah, it's going to be one of many. Yeah.
So historically, we've been Humboldt State University, part of the California State University system. We are now California Polytechnic University at Humboldt. So transitioned recently to a Cal Poly school, which means that there was an infusion of money into the school that is helping to keep it afloat.
Well, wonderful. Well, before we jump in, this is an extra special episode, and we also, in addition to having Abigail, we have another extra special guest over here to my left. Tell us a little about yourself, young man.
So, first time on your podcast.
Yep.
After all the work I've put into helping you, finally get me over here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Radek Shulga, economics here at Lyon College. Former co-host with Abby of Smithson and Shulga podcast.
The man behind the scenes, the mysterious guy nobody knows about but does all the work, you know.
That's true. And then
It's good that you think that.
Yeah. And guys, introduce yourself.
Jayson Nichols, producer Jayson. You guys know me. I'm a student here at Lyon College.
I'm just co-host Gavin. I'm a student here at Lyon College as well.
Well, real good. Well, Abigail, first thing, can you catch us up on your new opportunity at your school? Kind of tell. Now you're what are you teaching? Kind of fill us in on everything that's going on at the school.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm teaching. I'm working as a lecturer, and I'm teaching 3 classes per semester. The first semester I taught alternative processes in photography and 2-dimensional design, and then a intro to visual arts course called The Stories We Tell, which covers, actually, it's an intro to art history, but it covers the visual arts, it covers audio, and it covers filmmaking. And then this semester I'm teaching 2 of the same plus a digital photography class. And so I'm part of the art and film department here at Cal Poly Humboldt. I've also been working on a podcast project with the dean of the College of Social Sciences and Humanities. He has a podcast going about the value of a liberal arts education, where he's interviewing different people about their experience getting a liberal arts degree and what's come after. Some of them are still working with what they studied. Sometimes it's informed something different that they've done. So I'm helping to produce that podcast, and that sort of encompasses the work that I do for Cal Poly.
So are you still doing the Dear Adam Silver podcast?
I am, but it has been on a bit of a hiatus. So I have an episode coming up in March where I'm interviewing an author about the art of trash talk, which maybe Gavin knows something about on the court.
There you go, yeah.
But yeah, so he recently reached out to me and shared his book with me. And so I'm trying to, as what happens with moves is sometimes not everything picks up where it left off. And so I've had a hard time keeping up with everything that I had going before, but hopefully going to be diving back into that soon.
Well, I know you have a hotline to Adam Silver. Please, next time you're on the line, tell him kill the All-Star game, please. 211
Can it not be redeemed? Can it not be redeemed?
No, it needs to be completely sent to another planet. So it's painful.
So I think that the whole weekend should be the 3-point contest. Like everyone in the league should compete in the 3-point contest until it's just one person left.
Yeah. Oh, like Hunger Games. Yeah, like like they all go into the ring and only one emerges.
Right. I think that I love the idea of the All-Star game or the All-Star weekend being this time for, different generations of players to get together. Like it's a party and, it seems really great for the host city. But some of these events are not shaking out to be that interesting. And that comes from someone who thinks like a lot of boring things about basketball are really interesting. So the fact that I can't get that into it means something.
Kind of like the Pro Bowl of the NBA now.
Oh yeah.
Just like stupid things matter for points. Like now you play Madden for basically a field goal.
Yeah.
You team a AFC or NFC gets 3 points for winning a Madden game. It's like, what?
Yeah. Now, who's your team now that you're on the West Coast? The Warriors or?
Yeah, the Warriors have really always been my team. I
Yeah.
grew up in the Bay Area,
Yep.
and this is the 1990s and 2000s.
Yeah.
There were spurts where they were competitive, but not necessarily getting that far into the playoffs. I've adopted teams as I've moved around the country. So I went to a Grizzlies game when I was living in Arkansas. I was a Knicks fan when I lived in New York City. So I definitely dabble in other teams, but the Warriors, it's like through and through. And they've had a weird season. So we'll see what happens not second half, but second portion.
Yeah. No
So-
doubt.
Can I ask you quickly, with the All-Star weekend and you saying your team is the Warriors, what do you think about the Sabrina versus Stephen Curry 3-point contest? Like,
I mean, I think that was a really great event. I mean, I like the idea of finding ways for like the WNBA and the NBA to cross over and highlighting the strengths of players from both. I think that it was unfortunate that one of the broadcasters, Kenny the Jet Smith, said that Sabrina Ionesco should have considered shooting from the women's 3-point line rather than the men's 3-point line, because she tied Dame. She tied Dame for how many 3-point shots you could make. So I don't think that, she's close to tying Steph. Like, I don't think that's the point. And it's unfortunate that it ended that way, but I'd love to see more things like that. And it's fun to see a bunch of people who care about basketball coming together, even if they're different institutions.
Well, even the showing off the professionalism of women's basketball in particular, as far as that is, they got game. I mean, she showed it. Going head to head with the best in the world. Kind of almost the best ever. With him.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. She was one shot away from tying him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being she is one of the best in the world. So totally.
But despite that, the game has to go. Full stop. That's that. I'm on a mission. You are my direct line to Adam Silver, so I know that you can get this done, Abigail.
I think, he should definitely give me a call. And I've been thinking that for a while. Like, he should reach out. So,
well, he's listening to your podcast, I'm sure. So just drop it in there and just.
I'm sure somebody's going to send this one his way too. Yeah.
I think he's aware of my podcast. I don't know if he listens to my podcast. I think it's like somewhere deep, deep, deep in his brain, someone has mentioned it. That's what I think.
All right. Batesville, Arkansas versus Northern California. Kind of what compare and contrast?
Oh, yeah. So if we're talking specifically about the town that I live in actually is not that much bigger than Batesville. It's about 12 to 14,000 people, I believe. So it's a smaller town. But Eureka, California, which is about a 20-minute drive from where I'm living, is a bigger city, closer to 30,000 people. We have an airport nearby here, which is nice. And then we're about a 5.5 to 6 hour drive from San Francisco, which is really close to where I grew up. In general, so I can see a sliver of the Pacific Ocean from my bedroom. Every day I wake up and I'm like, that's the edge of the continent. It's out there. It just, drops off right there. And that's a really powerful feeling. And when my husband and I were applying for jobs, I was really feeling this longing to be close to the ocean again, like, and have that feeling and that sense of it being here, being nearby. So that's been the biggest difference for me is kind of like my sense of space, and where I place myself on the globe. It feels really different here than in Batesville. Even though it felt very open in Batesville and those like rolling hills and seeing far off into the distance, it also, I think I felt a little separated from where I grew up, closer to the ocean. But generally, like the town, just like Batesville, is very, very sweet here. Lots of, like a nice downtown with a plaza and active businesses and some good restaurants. So it's been good.
So I cheer for Auburn. I don't know. I'm gonna miss March Madness this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
because we'll
gonna
be in Poland.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to miss it. You can still watch it on your phone.
Yeah, that's true. But Jason's actually going on a trip with me to Poland.
Yeah.
Nice. That's exciting.
But we'll probably end up watching soccer, football, rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
than
You should
American
tell them about the
college
Poland
basketball.
trip. Tell
Yeah.
everybody about it. Nobody knows about it on the camera yet, on the Career Pathways.
Yeah, well, so 14 students, right?
Yep.
Going March 17th to March 31st, right? We'll be based in Krakow. I think Jason's actually the youngest.
Yeah.
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 It's mostly seniors and sophomores, seniors and juniors. A lot of these students actually missed out on any kind of international travel because of COVID. So this is kind of like last minute making it up for them. I'm pretty excited about it. A little bit scared.
What? Scared for why?
Just think gonna cause trouble. I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah.
No, it's just a big responsibility, right? You want to make sure that everybody has a good time, everybody learns things, nobody gets into trouble.
Yeah.
Too much.
Well, it says on the front page of my passport that if anything happens to me while I travel, I need to call the Secretary of State. They'll give a direct line to the Secretary of State. They'll get it sorted out. So I think we're good.
If you lose your passport,
Oh, if I lose my passport, well, I'll have to take like a. How did they do that? Did they do like a? How are you from?
You contact consulate. We have actually.
Oh, yes.
Silver.
He's.
Tell them the
I
Timberwolves to
just.
win the-
All I keep thinking is, I think Jason's gonna end up in one of those Hostel movies or
What?
one of those or Saw 3 or something. you
Oh.
know?
Like, I have to.
It'll be like organ removal, you know.
In front of you is a detailed
You're not selling
instruction.
this trip, Patrick.
Oh yeah, sorry, but yeah. Oh yeah, this what to expect in Europe, or gosh, organ removal.
Is that big over there?
But no, the
No.
big. On a positive note, this is the first time we've had any kind of like study abroad or
In a long
trip
time. Yeah.
in like 3+ years.
I mean, aside from individual students going abroad,
Yeah.
France,
Japan's one of them, right?
and
Yeah.
Japan. Yeah, but as a group, we have not had anything since 2018, I believe.
It was your last time was you, right?
I think there's one more after that one.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah.
it's great. Really exciting. It's good to get that back on track because that can be such a valuable experience.
Yes. And we have contingency plans for people losing their passports. That's actually one of the more minor problems.
I was gonna say I think there's bigger fish to fry than
Yeah.
losing our passports, but you never know.
That's an inconvenience.
Yeah, it's an
That's-
inconvenience.
yeah.
It's like I can still call the what is it, embassy? You gotta call the embassy.
The consulate, yeah.
Yeah, and be like, I lost my passport.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in Poland.
And of course, to make photocopies of your passport to take with you and to leave with your family in the United States.
Okay, I hate to keep beating the dead horse that is this NBA talk that we're having, but
Keep it.
I want to know, in your honest opinion, going by everything, who do you think's gonna win the NBA final? And I got my opinion, but I want to hear your opinion and see if it's right.
This is different from who I want to win it, right?
Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, let me just do some math in my head really quickly. I think that there is a good chance that the Boston Celtics could be challengers to the Denver Nuggets for the NBA championship. I think that the Nuggets have a good chance of going back to back, I feel, but it seems like coming out of the East, the Celtics have been like contenders the last few seasons, and I think that they're going to make a strong push. Unfortunately, Jaylen Brown did not reflect well in the dunk contest during All-Star weekend as one of the Celtics stars. I don't think he showed out maybe, but I think that the Celtics will potentially be, and I don't know what to think about like the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like they are playing so well and have been at the top of the Western Conference all season.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
Oh, but I just have like I don't know what to think of them. I mean, they really haven't gotten past the first round, I think, in a while. And it just says, I'm not sure what to.
Ever.
Yeah. So I don't know whether to think about them as like sort of just a regular season wonder or if they have the power to really contend.
Yeah.
Jason's from Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been following it a little. It's the only reason I've been watching basketball is because the team's finally doing good this year.
But
I do love Anthony Edwards. I think he's great.
I love his shoes.
eventually they're going to wake up
No.
and they're going to realize hey, we're the Minnesota
Yeah, we're from
Timberwolves.
Minnesota. We're gonna wake up
and
one day.
this
and
isn't supposed to happen,
Yeah,
and
no.
then everything will fall into place.
No, what's gonna happen is they're
Yeah.
gonna be like the '98 Vikings. They're gonna roll every single person they go through. They'll go to like close to the finals. It gets so close to the finals, and then all of a sudden they'll just choke.
Yeah,
Edwards will like start coming on the court and like fall, slip, break his ankle or something, and then Towns like goes for a 3 and gets knocked out, and he's out of the game, and it's just 3-3.
I think it's like teams do need to choke a few times before they get to like the promised land, so to speak. So I think it's unlikely
I think
that you
we're
go
already-
from like 0 to 10, like it would be at least in the playoffs. I also don't want to discount the Los Angeles Clippers because
Yeah.
they are playing really well right now, and it seems like they are out to prove something. And I mean, I think as a Warriors fan, I don't want to see them go to win a championship necessarily, but I think in all honesty, I think that they have a big shot.
Well, expert opinion on the Milwaukee Bucks, because that's a head scratcher. Doc Rivers comes in and they're doing worse. It's like I don't know what. It's like they're stacked, and you would think that would be the team to finally correct itself and make a real good run.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that could still happen potentially. Like, after the All-Star break, I think there's so much pressure and there's so much disruption with changing coaches in the middle of the season. Gavin, maybe you have more experience with this type of thing than I do. I don't know, but like, I think that things can get really discombobulated, and it's hard to just all of a sudden, oh, fresh blood. But like, I think that it's hard to bounce back quickly. And I love Giannis, and I respect Dame. And I'd like to see them play well too. And I think I prefer the Bucks to the Celtics. I'm in no way supporting the Celtics. I just think that they might.
A future with a potential Celtics championship and a Trump presidency is not a world I want to be in. That's it's like
other topics. No, I don't want to be a part of that either.
I feel it's a safe space.
Yeah. How about your
that will get broadcast to 98% of the world. Is that-
And I love you all.
99.97, yeah. How about your Detroit Pistons?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. My Detroit Pistons. Yeah. Now but see, they're gonna mess it up and not finish really horribly and blow a chance of getting a good draft pick.
My two friends actually have a bet going that my friend Evan bet $100 that the Pistons won't get more than 10 wins. So I don't know if he's lost yet. Have they got 10 wins yet?
I don't know.
That's Kate and them, right?
Yeah.
Kate coming out.
But Pat, can't you just relax because the Lions got to the NFC championship game?
That won't happen.
Yeah, they got robbed. Yeah, it was. That was. No,
that was your one chance. You blew it. You blew it.
Now you know what? Speaking of coaching changes, Gavin. Now you were here when before Coach Mays. God, I can't remember the guy's. Yeah, they started the season and then he left and took half the team.
Yes, that was
Yeah.
Took half the team.
Yeah, well, tell us about it. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I came in as a freshman, of course, and it was like the first week maybe. And he called us all in and we were all getting suited up. And then instead of practicing, he gave like a little speech. And the whole speech was like, I'm ready for this year, blah, 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 blah. Like, we're going to do great. We got some fresh blood. We did good last season. We're going to carry it on. And then at the end of the speech, he was like, but I'm leaving. And so he told us why he was leaving and he told us where he was going. And he asked a few players, like, did they want to, like, transfer with him? And then the people who got recruited that year, which was, like, me, JP, Luke. At the time, it was a guy named Kobe, a dude named, I think Landon was his name. A whole bunch of people. They couldn't leave. We couldn't leave. So he took all the people from last year and the people he recruited and left. And so we were left with like, I think, 10 players. And then it took another 2 months to get Coach Mays in. And then we had
mid-season? You didn't have a coach for 2 months?
Yeah. For 2 months. And then we started playing with 10 people who didn't know each other. So the season wasn't the best. So
Yeah.
But now you won the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look where you've arrived at.
Yep.
We do have a sports announcing gap though with you leaving.
yeah.
You know that there's they're saying where is that expert voice that was so soothing to our ears and kind of kept us informed on the game. You know,
Well,
It-
but at
yeah.
least when Abby left, she didn't take half the art students with her.
Or take the KILT program. with
Yeah,
you.
they take the
I wonder what Dustin would have thought of that if I just took everyone with me. No, I really miss being involved with the basketball games and the
Yeah.
softball games. That was such a amazing experience. And I mean, I think I am hoping to get involved here. We have a professional but minor league baseball or team here called the Humboldt Crabs. And I'm hoping that maybe they need need someone to keep the books or whatever this coming season, or be a mascot or something. I would
So
really
you're gonna
like
dress
to.
up like a crab?
Yeah, totally. I would dress up as a crab. I mean, I think I'm in general, I'm interested in doing things that are more directly involved with the game than dressing up as a crab. But like, if there are a lot of things to dress up as, like crab's not so bad.
You gotta start somewhere, right? Work
Well,
your way up.
it'll be kind of like Bull Durham then, right? You know, you can just be be there and you watch the team, grow, send the pitcher notes and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping that I can get involved in that. But that was that was just such a great part about being at Lyon for me.
Now, do you get a chance at the school? Do you have any exhibits coming up or any showcase for your artwork?
Yeah, so I will be in the faculty show here in the fall. One thing about being a lecturer that's different from being on the tenure track line or being a visiting assistant professor is that like I don't need to pursue exhibitions in the same way that I was before. So my husband, Eliseo, he's head of the painting department here. He's on the tenure line. He's hustling right and left. And I've kind of taken this time. I have applied for some shows. I've applied for some residencies, but I've also let myself not push that as hard because I was doing so much of that at Lyon College, which of course is part of the gig. But the other thing is my family's here, and I hadn't lived close to my parents within like 12 hours of my parents since for 18 years.
Yeah.
So it was a huge deal to come back here and get to live near them and see them often. So they came to visit like 4 or 5 times last semester. And so I was just hanging out with them instead of making any artwork, which not maybe great for my career, but it's been so worth it to have quality time with them.
Yeah, you have to balance this stuff out.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons we're here is because of them. So, I mean, as far as why we were looking here, so one of the big reasons. So I want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, who has the art show this week? There's an art show this week, isn't there?
Wasn't there one just the other day?
Yeah, there was just one.
Is it going on for like the whole month or whatever?
I think that was like the reception that opens it up.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be hanging there.
Then it's going, but then we have the student art that's rolling through this week.
'Cause I think I have to do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah. California, how do they cover Silicon Valley and kind of everything? Because you're Silicon Valley adjacent, and in Arkansas, they're destroying young people's minds through social media, and you got all this talk about just how dominant they are. AI is always in the conversation, and I'm sure it gets talked about and handled very differently when you're in California itself and being that close to the Silicon Valley.
Yeah. I mean, well, so one thing that I've noticed here, like less of the talk about technology, but just the talk about the money that's in the Bay Area due to the technology and due to the companies that are there. So I think that during COVID, so I'm like really close to Oregon. I'm like an hour from Oregon, super far north in California. So during COVID, as what happened across, the country in many cities, a lot of people left the cities and went to more rural areas, especially if they're working remotely. They're like, oh, it's way cheaper here. I can work from here. But then, of course, that's driving up the cost of living for everyone else that's already in that place. So the housing costs skyrocketed in Humboldt County during COVID. And actually, when we first moved here, I was like, Eliseo, let's leave our Arkansas plates on the car for as long as possible so people think we're from Arkansas and don't have a problem. Because as soon as I say I'm from the Bay Area, I get originally even people are leery of that
Yeah.
because basically, you know, we're changing the nature of this place that's kind of retained its identity. It is an isolated location in California, and a lot of the economy here has been involved with like weed growing for a long time. Like when I was growing up in the Bay Area, I understood Humboldt to be like the weed capital of the world. With the legalization comes like, and this influx of money from the Bay Area, like that is really changing that, the culture and like who's doing the growing, who's benefiting and things like that. So there is some, like, I don't know if I would call it, well, I guess, yeah, it's like gentrification to a certain extent of the area. Because this is like not a very particularly wealthy area of California. It's actually one of the poorer counties, but it's changed really rapidly just in a few years with the legalization of weed and with COVID.
But you know, the whole thing with Silicon Valley that you mentioned, the money, it probably does it get a little tedious being in California, and you just there's so much money that in tech, and everybody isn't in tech, you know. So it's like, what about like the rest of the world? You know, because it's just insane the amount of wealth that a concentrated few tend to, you know, as far as companies and individuals that they generate versus the rest of the state. So
I mean, I think that also for a long time, San Francisco had been so much associated with like the arts and kind of like a cultural point for people, and it like meant something about sort of what's the word? Like counterculture. Like it pushed back on maybe what people were, how people were like thought that, you know, this is what's right, or this, you know, like there were just other ways of living. And I think that it has lost some of that identity because of Silicon Valley, its proximity to Silicon Valley, and a lot of the artists and the people who like defined that place and the culture that defined that place, like you can't afford to be there anymore. You can't pay the rent that people who are working at Google can pay. And you know, those rents just continue to get more and more absurd. And I love San Francisco, and I think actually it's like really poorly represented in the national media. You know, it's like as if there's like, it's like post-apocalyptic, and you know, it's just like been totally ruined. That's not the case, but its identity has for sure changed. And even where I grew up in the Bay Area, so this is like 20 minutes south of San Francisco, there's this empty lot across from this church. The church owned the empty lot. And since I grew up there, since I was little, since I can remember, every year for 3 nights, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of December, that lot is transformed into Bethlehem. So the church puts on this production of Bethlehem. There's camels, there's like all these animals, there's a baby Jesus, there's Roman soldiers marching in the street. Like it's an incredible production. They only use this lot 3 days a year. This is in the heart of Silicon Valley. And they kept this going until Christmas of 2022. They were like, we're selling the lot. We can't do this anymore. This is one of the last empty lots in this town. And there's just going to be another, I mean, I think the city that I'm from is trying to do a good job of building affordable housing as well. But like, it's just, that totally meant something to me. And it was like we had held on to that as a part of our identity, like the pre-Mark Zuckerberg identity. And it's just not, it had to go at some point, because that lot is probably worth like, I don't even know how to measure money. Radek, you'll have to help me. But like,
In dollars. Lots of those dollar things.
Like, I mean, I think we're talking like $10 million maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it's just like, yikes. So everything has changed. And of course, I wanted to be closer to my parents, but the idea of moving to a city where it's like the cheaper houses are $1 million. You know, that's like, that's a hard thing to do to move from markets out of that.
Fixer upper for $1 million.
No, seriously. But is it better, a little more affordable in Humboldt, or are you still
it is. It's still way more affordable here. I think that will continue to change, but yeah, it's a lot more affordable here. We have a beautiful house here, and I think we'll think of buying like after a couple of years. But it's way more affordable. But the property taxes are really rough in California, and of course I knew that coming here, so it's like that's going to be something that's a consideration of the benefit of buying versus renting. Yeah. but it's good. I mean, I'm pro California mostly, but there's parts of it that make it challenging, especially for relocating people moving here for the first time or coming back. It's like, you know, we didn't get paid for the first time by Cal Poly until October, but we were living here since July. And I was like, we're spending our Arkansas dollars in California. This is a whole other currency, you know? So it's kind of funny to get paid with like, whoa, oh, this accounts for the cost of living here, you know, regularly, which is an intense experience because unlike tornadoes, you get no warning about that happening. So you just, you know, it just comes on and then it's just happening. And that of course can,
Well, so walk us through an earthquake, you know?
You never been in an earthquake?
Walk us through an earthquake.
Yeah, no, what's it feel like? No, I've never been.
They're usually pretty brief. Right?
Yeah, I know. It's just,
knocking on wood when you say that, because there's always the chance of the big one, which would like put my bed floating out towards like Asia. I mean, I think that I grew up in a place where there were earthquakes, but I never really felt them. And then we got here and I felt like 3 immediately. And they're just like, you know, like you hear things rattling around and then you feel like yourself kind of rattling it around. And there's this one, like our bedroom is an addition to the house we're living in. It wasn't part of the original structure. And I feel like it shakes a lot, like more than the rest of the house. And, you know, things move around a little bit. They had a really big earthquake here, not this past winter, but the winter before we moved here. And that did like a lot of structural damage to the house that we're living in. So it's been recently upgraded and everything's been fixed. So, but I mean, we had heard stories from our colleagues when we got here about them, like everything coming out of their cabinets.
Yikes.
You need to get like the camper cabinets where they are metallically shut, right?
I lived in California and there was a couple of earthquakes when I lived there. And I remember one because I was sleeping and something woke me up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, you know, I'm lying down on the bed and all of a sudden it goes like this and then comes back. And I'm like, am I still dreaming? Right? Because all of a sudden I became vertical when I was horizontal without ever doing anything. And then I looked it up and like got up, you know, and then, oh yeah, we had an earthquake.
Wow.
So the whole house.
Didn't they film Poltergeist in California? That sounds like a Poltergeist kind of movie thing, you know, just.
I've seen it, but that sounds scary. You know, so I'm also famous in my family for sleeping through the 1989 earthquake that hit the San Francisco. Where the Bay Bridge like collapsed on itself, and I think it was like Game 3 of the World Series.
Yeah, it was the Oakland A's, and wasn't it the Giants and the A's? I thought it was like the two of them playing. Yeah.
I was 1 year old and I just like, I couldn't be bothered, you know, I just slept the whole time. And I got a nice reputation as a deep sleeper from that.
They have to be careful where they put stadiums over there because like the one in Seattle, the stadium, the football, there's a famous one. It's called the Beastquake because the guy, he was running so much that everybody in the crowd started shaking. They caused a mini earthquake in the whole city because where the stadium was located.
Yikes.
I actually saw for the Harlem Globetrotters came to Cal Poly campus and I saw them and everyone was cheering so loudly for them in this arena that like the bleachers were shaking and I was like, stop, we'll never know if there's an earthquake. You know, it's like, this feels really dangerous. Just everyone relax. Yeah.
Now, you're San Francisco, you know, as far as born, but what about Oakland? I can't. The Vegas Raiders, now the Vegas Athletics or whatever.
Yes. I think that they're reconvening about the Athletics. Yes.
I mean, that's just hard on me. I mean, how many times can you just crush the poor people of Oakland? You know, as far as especially with the Raiders, that's inhumane.
Mm.
I mean, I think that the Warriors, I believe, left before the Raiders to go to San Francisco. So like a 20-minute drive from Oakland.
Right.
But it is not like, again, it goes back to the money. It's like the tech money is on that side of the bay. And I think there's just something so gross to me about relocating them 20 minutes just to get more of that tech money because they're already getting lots of it by being in Oakland, but they just wanted that much more of it, you know, and make it that much easier for people who have that to go to the game. And then they have the nerve, the owners, the PR team, the marketing team, whatever, to put Oakland on center court of the Chase Center, to put like the Oakland logo. Like they didn't just leave Oakland,
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a really unfortunate thing because Oakland is such an interesting, wonderful, beautiful city that often gets a bad reputation. I think again, like just going back to like Fox News and like other places that just rag on like larger West Coast or coast cities. And I think that it feels like there's and so many people who cannot afford to live in San Francisco also live in Oakland. Like it is a bit cheaper there. So it just feels really icky to me. And the A's are the Oakland A's. I think that they're meeting again to sort of figure something out because
Yeah, they're
also
still
like
trying to figure out a stadium. Yeah.
baseball should not be played. And I mean, I know like the Diamondbacks play in Phoenix, but like baseball should not be played in an air conditioned thing in the middle of the summer. Like that just in the middle of the desert. Like that just doesn't feel like that's adding up like from a again, that just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Fox News, and it just occurred to me that now that you live in California, you are part of the coastal elites.
Oh yeah.
Step back into my coastal elite shoes. Yeah.
It's nice well, I hope you consider us friends, here in the forgotten area of the country.
We're flyover country. Are we flying?
Yeah, flyover country.
You're saying that. I'm not saying that. I had my coastal eliteness checked a million times. I lived outside of California for 18 years. Like now there are things that I'm really happy about. And also I understand why some people think, I mean, and it's not a perfect place for sure. And I wake up thinking of Batesville sometimes. I wake up thinking of Tucson where I used to live or, Colorado, or it's like all these places have a lot of value. And so.
Well, California doesn't have an exam to allow you to return, as far as to gain that coastal elite status. Like, thank you, Miss Smithson. We have a couple questions to ask you before. Okay.
Well, I think I would have passed if they did have a quiz for me. I would have
There
passed.
you go. Yeah.
But they just let me slip right back in, and I'm grateful for that.
Good deal.
Is it true that there's I heard this a couple years ago, actually probably about a year ago. So there was like a big teacher shortage in California, like high school and elementary. Is that still going on? Is that still a big problem, or has that kind of died down a little bit? Like they're filling in those positions? Because I know they were like literally stripping like people just straight from college. They were just like, get in here, we'll give you the rest. Is that still a problem?
I'm remembering the big teacher strikes that happened in Los Angeles a couple years ago, which I think what you're talking about is I don't know. I mean, I think that it's still not great. And I think that, we were just on strike. Like the whole California State University system just went on strike a few weeks ago because of like striking for better wages. And I think that's just like across the board, just like in most places, like teachers are underpaid and people are not wanting to pursue that as a career.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas has shortages as well.
Yeah.
So
I think it's probably a U.S. shortage, to be honest.
We have a really strong union. The CSU system has a really strong union. It's one of the biggest, sort of strongest unions in higher education in the country. So we went on strike. We were planning on doing it for 5 days, and we went on for 1 day. It was the largest faculty strike in history. And to be honest, like there has been some pushback on like the deal that we were offered that we essentially ended up accepting. So we stopped striking because a lot of people feel like, okay, we had all that momentum. We'd been planning to strike for so long. It was kind of coming to a culmination to get out there. And the UC system had a large strike last year and they had their wages improved. But we kind of ended up, with this agreement that does improve some things, but like falls way short of what we were looking for, not just from a wage perspective, but like, getting more, counselors on campuses and in permanent positions. And we had a 6-week parental leave policy that's now been increased to 10 weeks. That's still really, really short, and for people who teach on a semester basis, that should be a semester. So it seems like, yes, like, well, to answer your question, Jayson, like there's still a desire for better treatment and like for teachers in the public institutions here in California, for sure, especially because the cost of living is so high here.
Yeah. Yeah, and it may have been a fallout also from the actors and writers strike, and they went 6 months, and they claim a victory, but it doesn't really look like they won that much. And
The only thing they won really, I mean, the wages wasn't. The only thing they won was that they're like, all right, we'll just stop like saying that we're gonna give your job to AI, basically. That was the big thing.
Which they will still do.
yeah,
Which they still do.
Yeah.
Well, because now you can write it into. We're only gonna hire people that will work with AI.
right.
So that's how it is. Where we'll let you choose, but we'll only hire people who want to work with the system.
Yeah, it's the same with our strike. Like it went from being like, the management hates us, we hate the management, like blah, blah, blah. And then like after one day it was like, look at this amazing offer they've made us. Like, and it's really just, it's the similar offer to what they were making to us before we went on strike, with a few little things sprinkled in there. But partly some of that is contingent on the state of California budget. So if like part of the agreement we've reached is that the projected budget will stay the same starting on July 1st, and then we will get an increase. Like, yikes, that's just, it's not as set in stone.
Well, real, kind of a real sexy topic, water. What's because I read like,
Water
just
rights.
water rights is like, it's like Chinatown, and, like out there in that, California, along with like 4 other states, are all kind of fighting over this finite quantity of water that's.
There's the Colorado River.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and I don't know if that gets covered much.
Oh, well, so it's really like it just has been
be right back,
raining
guys.
so
Yep.
much here, that it's hard to. It's hard to
James Bond.
because we're part of the Pacific Northwest, which does get a hevier rainfall than other parts of
I
California.
was holding my breath to just see if Radek was going to
Tip
take
the
out
camera over. Boom.
some of the big cameras.
He made it.
Yes, he did. So but that it's. I know living in Atlanta, there was always this fight with Georgia and then Florida and Alabama, and it was just in Atlanta being such a major city drew upon a lot of water that came from Lake Lanier in that case, and then this went on for 10 years, just always fighting, never resolved, and then I read about this situation with the western states and the Colorado River, and it's like, my goodness, it's
I know, and I think being in such a wet place, it's easy to forget about that, because it's like there's so much rain falling on us that it's like, well, isn't there enough water to go around? But yeah, absolutely.
so it's like a northwest, kind of like what you see in Seattle and Portland as far as rain.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think as intense, but like it rains in some form almost every day. It's wet outside.
Yeah.
It does sound like
and
Seattle.
So that's why I was going through this it's just been so gray for so long. We have some sunlight today, but I've just been feeling really anxious about how cloudy it is all the time, which is a trade-off of different places.
Well, it's sunny here in Batesville. You left paradise, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I actually did think about Batesville a lot in the fall, because that was my favorite time to be there. I think that the fall there is so lovely, and I love seeing those hills like off in the distance that are all different colors. So yeah, I missed it then.
Travel stories.
At this, we'll just wrap it up. And Abigail Smithson, thank you so much for being part of the Career Pathways podcast. It was a special episode, and you made it even more special, along with our extra special guest, Radek. Thank you for joining us as well. Yep. All right.
Thanks for having me. This is really special.
It was
ever.
And again, thank all the listeners for listening to this podcast, so you could learn all things about California, about questionable food things, and please, Adam Silver, kill the All-Star game. I think that's a fitting way to end this. So thank you all from Gavin.
Jayson.
Producer Jason, and myself, Pat Lynch. Thanks again.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
This broadcast is sponsored in part by Lyon College and by KILT Studios.